Hello Planets.nu, this is Tailspin. This video is going to show you how to use some of the Starmap features, and I'm going to try to go through it quickly. There's a lot. I will not be using the draw features. I'm going to make a separate video for that. This little video up here takes you back and forth between your dashboard and the Starmap. This three little dots means there's a drop-down menu. The X cancels out anything you do on the map with it. The first little wrench symbol is view toggles, and the first one, it's a ruler, it's a measure tool. You can press M to engage it, M to disengage it. When you click, it gives you an origin point and starts to measure from that origin point. And you can measure multiple distances. So as you're clicking these multiple points, it measures not only the length of the segment, but it also measures the total of all the segments put together. So on the right here you see 524.1, that's 524.1 light years, the whole string of segments, and this one segment is just 101.4. So I just wiped it out with the X button. You can put it on, and then you want to get rid of it, you can push X and wipes it out. If you can also do that by clicking on the X, it gets rid of it. You should note that this is not permanent, this measure tool. It won't stay on the map. If you want to keep lines on the map or circles on the map, you use the drawing features. The next feature is the Hyp Circles, or hyper jump distances. You push H to turn it on, H to turn it off, or just push the circle. And you choose an origin point, and it creates this circle. Now this circle is, the middle of it is 350 light years. So a probe or a ship with hyperjump capability can jump anywhere from 340 to 360, so anywhere within the width of that circle. So I like to use this tool for predicting where to jump. So if I'm jumping from here, I can see, okay, I can jump to that planet safely without being seen. I click on it again, I can jump to that planet, and so on. Another way to use it is to predict how to get to a specific planet. So if I'm here, and I want to get to, let's say, this one, right here. So I start here, I push, you gotta make sure. That's what happens if you don't have it engaged, it'll of course select the ship or planet. So you have to push H or the circle to engage it. And so I want to go to this planet, so I can click on this one as well. And now I have two circles, and where they intersect is where I can jump from here to here and then to that planet. So it's really good for helping you find ways to get to specific planets. And the next feature is the draw feature, the layers and all that. I'm not going to get into that in this video. The next one is the search feature, the little magnifying glass, and it lets you search for planets and ships. You have to select which one. And you can search by ID number, so let's put number 1 in there. That took me to planet number 1. So you can also, you don't have to click on the magnifying glass, you can also just push S for search. And let's say I have a ship named Joe, I want to find that ship. And so I click ship, I put the name in, and I click find, and there's my ship named Joe. The next section is called view toggles, and these are things you can turn on and off. First one here is called connections. It's a Q key. So with that hyperdrive circle, you know it stayed. I can push X, wipe it, wipe the map. So let's go back to the connections. And so you can see here there's just a bunch of dots, but once I put the connections on, it sort of gives shape to the map, and it tells you where clusters are. These little dotted lines tell me that I can go from this planet here to that planet with one movement. So the maximum warp is warp 9, and that max distance is 81.5 light years. So if it's beyond 81.5 light years, the planet, then it's not going to have a connection. specifically actually not from planet to planet, it's from planet to warp well. And so the planet might be 81.9, but the warp well is 81.5, so I can still make that in one turn. So it'll still be connected. So all these connections, like I said, give you shape to the map. They help you discuss borders, help you know where people are expanding to and where they might expand to. It's a really good tool. You should always have that connection features on. You also use a Q button to turn it on and off. So I'll turn that off, and I'll go to the names. This one, as you can see, puts the names and IDs of every planet on the map visible to you. I don't usually use that because I find it's too much going on. This little feature here is called Combats, and if you have it engaged at the beginning of your turn, as soon as you open your turn, there will be little explosion symbols, little red, yellow explosion symbols. Like say you had a battle here, you'd see that symbol right there, and it would tell you there was a big combat there. You click on it, and it'll take you directly to the VCRs, or the visual combat recordings. They do disappear after the first time you watch it, so that explosion feature doesn't stay on all the time. If you've already watched it, you want to go back to watch it, you have to go back to your dashboard and click on the VCRs button to find them again. Next feature is the ship scan range. This is a host setting that is always at 300. It can be changed, but its standard games have 300. And what that is an automatic scan that every planet and ship you own does. So it's usually at the end of the host, after movement and all that stuff, your ships and planets scan out 300 light years. And if I use my measuring tool, you can see on the circle, there's 300.6 light years. So this little planet, this little ship here, large T-space freighter, has scanned out 300 light years this way. So it detects ships. So you can see over here that because I had a ship here and I'm scanning out that far, when this guy brought a ship in, a little fire cloud, I can see it. So I do find that to be a very useful tool. You know, if you turn it off, it's kind of like you can see everything, but this tells you the limits of your scans and what you can see and what you can't see. So it's a pretty good tool. And this little sign with an arrow on it tells you your ship history. So if I select a ship, these little dotted lines will show up, and that tells me that this ship jumped from here to here to here. It kind of records all the ship history, so it gets a little crazy after a while, so it's not super useful. And if you have your connections on like this, you can sort of see the lines a bit thicker, but it's hard to see. The only time I use it is when I forget what I wanted to do with a ship, like a freighter, and I'm like, okay, where did that come from? Where did I want to send it? And so then I turn on the history, and I can see, oh, it just came from there, so I don't need to send it there. That's the only time I ever use that. The planet picks is something I don't use, but it is pretty cool. It shows you a realistic, I guess, planet image, or not a realistic, but at least a distinctive picture for each planet. Although you zoom out, it still becomes dots. So you can toggle that on or off. So the next feature here is your grid. And it turns on this grid for the whole star map. And each one of these squares is a 30 light year by 30 light year area. So I think its best use is probably just estimating distances. So I can see 30, 60, 90, and maybe half that is about 105 light years. If I measure it, it's 111. So it just gives you a rough estimate of how far the distances are. And maybe the next button down is your audio controls. You can turn off, on and off your sound effects, music, and the assistant. And then we have the resources. It's a visual representation of your resources. So if I click on this one's moly, this one's tritanium, this one's duranium, this one's neutronium, sorry. So the four at the bottom are all resources. So if I click on molybdenum, brings up these circles. Now the orange indicates what's on the surface of the planet. So this planet has 911 on the surface, 572 in the ground still, and it is mining 333 every turn, plus 333. So what that tells me when I just see that that visual representation of my molybdenum is that there's a lot on the surface. That's the thickness of the circle, but it's not a ton. It's a decent amount. While this one has 3 circles, so that tells me, and it's blue. So blue tells you that there's more of it in the ground. So, but there's a lot of it, and then this one, in this case, this planet has 7,000 in the ground, so that's why there's 3 circles. This one has 3 circles, but the circles are thin, and the reason why they're thin, so it has 7,000 moly in the ground, just like this planet, but it mines at 16%, so that density, how much of the mineral you get out, it's not much. 16 is very low, and it'll tell me when I mine that I'm not going to get it out very quickly. But this one, with the thickness of these rings, I can see that the moly is going to come out much faster, and when you look at it, it has 61% density or mining rate. So the same thing will happen when you look at titanium. So I can see here there's a ton in the ground, and it's a very high percentage, and if you look closely at it, there's 8,000 in the ground, almost 100% mining rate. So that's an awesome planet. That one's not so great, and that one's okay too. And there's uranium, and there's my neutronium. Wow, that planet's amazing. It has 8,500 in the ground at 100%. There is also tabs for money and supplies. Now, I don't have, this is the beginning of a game, so I don't have a lot of money and supplies, but it'll tell you where your stockpiles are. So if you have stockpiles of supplies and mega credits, it'll pop up somewhere on your map, and you get those circles, and it'll tell you how many circles there are. It'll tell you how many you have of each. And so I find that useful for when I have a lot of planets and I want to quickly just find a planet. Okay, which one has a lot of supplies? Which one has a lot of money? And I click on that, and it'll pop up, and I can say, okay, send a freighter there. If it's just a quick reference tool to go find something. So the last two, the purple little people and the orange little people, are natives and colonists. So if I click on the natives one, it can show you what natives there are. So again, the rings mean how many. Like there's 3 rings here, so there's a lot of natives there. There's only 1 ring here, so there's not a lot. So the 3 rings had 6.5 million natives. The 1 ring had 1.9 million. The thickness of the rings represents their government, I think. I'm not certain of that, but I believe that is the case. For instance, this one here has amphibian. There's 3,000, so there's 2 rings. So that tells you, oh, there's a decent amount of natives there. But they're thin, so the government is terrible, and anarchy is a pretty terrible government to tax, if you tax them at all. This one here has 1 ring, so there's a little bit of natives, so there's 1.9, but their government is okay. Better than our anarchy. It's tribal, so it's close to feudal, 100% taxes, but it's not as good as this one, which has 6.5 million, so there's 3 rings, and it's a representative government, which is almost the best you can get, so that's why the rings are fat. Fat rings are good in this case, or in any case with this. So that's the natives. With the colonists, I believe it's the same thing. The thickness is the government, and the amount of rings is how many there are. And your ring thickness for colonists is never going to change. It's always going to be the same, because your government for native or colonists is always feudal government. So it's always going to be the same. And I hope that helped, and I'll see you out there.